See, you don't seem to understand. See, we ain't got nothing to work out. I want you gone from here. That's my bottom line. And I'm gonna lean on you every day till you're out of here. I'm gonna be in your face every day and every night. When you close your eyes, all you're gonna see is me. No matter how long it takes, even if it kills me.
No one in this league understands the narrative of this league more than I do, because I've been creating narratives here for close to 10 years with these recaps, framing your outcomes, characterizing your patterns, tagging common fantasy practices with my own personal flavor. The Alfredian triangle is not to be trusted, right? Hensel is a shiftless fantasy owner. The concept of an MVP, the science of the Hydra. Ed is overly ambitious. The Kamara incident, the Drew Brees trade, and of course, who could forget Andy being the most horrible human being of all time. I want to take you back to week 6, where Team Bundy lost to Joe 58-74. At the time, I was 2-3-1. I had won my last 2 games. The Real Deal podcast opens up with a analogy of the week. Let's call it that. A scene that analogizes a specific event that week, whether a triumphant victory or a tragic loss, but mostly it highlights the loss, of course. The micro within a week, within a game, is what they look at. That particular week, the commish thought that it was a good idea to instead make a character assassination of Team Bundy not making the playoffs in 5 years. I've spoken about not making the playoffs seasons before. I spoke about it at the beginning of the season. However, what I didn't call it is a curse. Narrative. It matters. Jay couldn't wait to hear the reason why I wanted the commish out of the playoffs. But comparing me to Jay is like comparing a pit bull to a golden retriever. Jay wants the best for everybody. I want to bite the shit out of everybody. And if this morning I felt that my eggs were a little too cold and I had to beat the dog shit out of Andy's mom for 5 minutes, and I just thought, I don't want the commission in the playoffs, that would have sufficed enough. That's reason enough. This isn't a book club. I don't have to substantiate my reasons to anyone. But what I will do is emphasize the importance of stories, the importance of what we say about other teams on these shows. If Team Bundy wouldn't have made the playoffs this year, this week it would have opened up. Team Bundy wasn't able to break the curse. At the beginning of the 2024 season, it's going to be Team Bundy. Will he break the curse? Will he break the curse? Even if I'm 7-0 in the middle of the season next year, Team Bundy 7-0, but will he break the curse? Will he break the curse? The curse. Here's some facts. Weeks 8, 9, and 10, the commish lost to Joke's on You, Big Papa Poop, and Team Bundy. In those weeks, Lamar Jackson scored 11, 11, and 12. The failure of his team can be explained through the inconsistency of Lamar Jackson, but he had a supporting cast. Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Swift started off the season strong, but after week 7, they went from lineup locks to lineup liabilities. And Devonta Smith, who I didn't want to keep, weeks 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, Orlando started him all of these weeks. He scored 17 points, during all those weeks, including his season low in week 5, 1 catch for 6 yards. A game that the commish lost 66-76 to Big Papa Poop. Narrative. To quote Pulp Fiction, "You hear me, hillbilly boy? I ain't done with you by damn sight. I'ma get medieval on your ass." Oh, whoa. This is your week 14 recap. Bundy here. You there. What we're going to do is just go over this week's games. That's all we're going to do. This is by far going to be the shortest recap of the year, because later on this week, I'll be giving you my round 1 predictions. But let's get into the scores. Team Bundy defeats Pork Chop Express 95-80. Finally. I'll be damned if I ain't gonna stand up to no bully. Fight like a man and put my hands up to a bully. That's right. Team Bundy defeats Paul 80-95. Look, Paul's beaten me many times over the past few years. I've been very vocal about this. But this victory, sending Paul to the Shadow Realm, denying him a playoff spot, is worth about 5 victories in my mind. I'm going to be honest with you. This one felt good. Just last night, Tua just scoring 8 points, Raheem Mostert 21 points out of nowhere. At one point, I saw he had 7, and then all of a sudden he had fucking 21. What the fuck? 14 points from Bijan Robinson. A bad performance from A.J. Brown versus the Dallas Cowboys in that pivotal Sunday night game. And Travis Kelce with 8 points. On the other side, Team Bundy, 20 from Josh Allen. I thought he was going to do a lot more than that. And I got to tell you, as I told you last week, what I expect from Austin Ekeler is about 8 to 10 points. You know, I consider myself lucky if I get that. He scored 15 this week. And I say that because of the production that I think I'm going to continue to get out of Joe Mixon and Rachaad White, who currently are the 7th in Joe Mixon, the 7th and the 6th in Rachaad White ranked running backs in this fantasy season. Oh yes. And DK Metcalf, who started off the season very slow, at the very least over the past month, has scored 15 in week 11, just 3 in week 12, 31 last week, and he had 2 catches, but that 1 touchdown against the 49ers, giving Team Bundy the victory and eliminating Pork Chop Express from the 2023 playoffs. The past 3 weeks, I eliminated Ed, I eliminated Jokes on You, and I eliminated Paul. This feels very good. This is a very good season for Team Bundy, getting 8 wins, now with a record of 8-5-1. Thank you. The next game that we move on to here is Ricky O defeating Zach Wilson 108-73. Orlando getting 31 points from Lamar Jackson. When Lamar Jackson scored this season, Orlando won. You know, his inconsistency will go down as one of the most, I'd say, one of the most disappointing seasons for quarterbacks. He's still the 4th ranked quarterback, but his lows were so low and his highs were pretty high. I mean, he had 28s, 27. Of course, he got a 31 this week. He got a 23. He got a 33 in week 7 against the Detroit Lions, but too many 11s. He had a 5 at one point. He had a 9-point score, just 14 points in week 12. Not a good season for Lamar Jackson as far as fantasy. Orlando, however, did get 19 points from Ezekiel Elliott. Didn't get much from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And as I said, Stefon Diggs has been non-existent for quite some time now. I don't understand the Buffalo Bills offense. I don't know why, but it only seems like he can get those short yardage plays. You're not seeing a lot of bombs. Of course, he had 30 points week 4 against the Miami Dolphins, but he hasn't gotten output like that in quite some time. This hurt Orlando immensely, though he does pick up the victory here. Zach Wilson, look, man, Ed goes out with no honor. I don't know why Ed did this. The reason why it kind of pisses me off is if it was against me, Ed would have showed up. Ed would have put people in his lineup. And if I'm not mistaken, had he switched out CJ Stroud, which I had suggested that he should do, CJ Stroud with Brock Purdy, and if he would have put in Odell Beckham Jr., he just would have lost to Orlando by 1 point. So he would have been in the lead if he would have put in Brock Purdy and started either Adam Thielen or Odell Beckham Jr. He would have been in the lead to start the Monday night games. I don't get it. I don't get why you put so much effort into a fantasy season only to not show up. And also, why pick up the Ravens defense during last week and during Sunday, and then you don't even start them? I mean, it ended up turning out better for you because you had the Jets, but did Ed just pick up the Ravens defense just because he didn't want anybody else to have them? I don't know. It's kind of like in that scene in Juice when Bishop and Q are having that fight in the party and the gun falls on the floor and then the random guy just puts it in his pocket. I mean, the Ravens defense is lethal and Ed just essentially puts it in his pocket and that's it. Just the pistol is gone. Yeah. So I don't know whether, I don't know why Ed did this. I don't know why he decided to do it. Maybe he's cool with the commish and he wanted to give the commish a victory. This is a mark of manic depression, like experiencing very high highs and very low lows. Ed's team is like a manically depressed person. Like, he's either very fucking happy, very fucking ambitious, or he's close to killing himself and he doesn't even load up his lineup. No one gives a shit. Zach Wilson, the worst team in the league, go away. The next game that we move on to here is Joelicus Maximus advancing to the playoffs, beating Jokes on You 108-50. Pedro getting his very last Tito Award for the year. I think Pedro might have racked up 4 this season, by far the most, with 50 points here. 23 points from Justin Fields. Now, this is going to be interesting for Joe, and I'll discuss this later on in the week. This is going to be interesting for Joe here, what he does with Justin Fields, because you could make the argument and say that Justin Fields is a better quarterback than Sam Howell. Even though Sam Howell has been consistent, he was on a bye this week. He hasn't been scoring monster numbers, but, at least in the high teens, he's not going to give you he's not going to dob you. So 23 points from Justin Fields, 16 points just last night from Derrick Henry, 12 from Travis Etienne, CeeDee Lamb proving himself to be one of the more consistent fantasy wideouts here with a 13-point performance. Michael Pittman Jr., you're welcome, Joe, with 11 points, and George Kittle with 13. Not much for Pedro as Jordan Love has a bad Monday night against the Giants. Josh Jacobs, I believe, was injured at some point in the game with 4 points. I knew that when the commish picked up Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it was an ironic moment. It was Orlando, all of us thought, I guess, that he was improving his chances to win. But it was ironic because with the loss of Isaiah Pacheco, I knew that Dro had to play Dameon Pierce. And credit to fucking Pedro. Credit to Pedro for playing his team, for showing up, even with a Tito Award. I don't care if Ed scored more. Pedro shows up and he made the change to take Isaiah Pacheco out and Dameon Pierce, even though his season was done, even though it didn't matter. He wanted to play spoiler. He wanted to fucking stick the knife in Joe's back. That's what you fight for. That's what you play for. Why not show up? Why die without pride? I don't get it. I don't understand it. I knew he would lose because Dameon Pierce has been non-existent this year. And Calvin Ridley, one of the biggest disappointments of the 2023 fantasy season with just 5 points. Just 5 points from him. Brandon Ayuk with 10. So Joe advances to the fantasy playoffs with a record of 6-8. And you got to give Joe a lot of credit. He started off the season 0-4. 0-4, and he still made the playoffs. Of course, bouncing back the week after in week 5, defeating Paul 152-88. The 152, of course, being the highest total of the year. And what was Joe, the second highest scoring team this week? If he would have went off completely, maybe he would have overtaken Eric. But remember, Joe's season is a good example of a roller coaster, because even though he lost the 4 games at the beginning of the season, he had a lot of strong performances, but then weeks 10, 11, and 12, as I told you a couple of weeks ago, he lost to his opponents, scoring 127, 126, and 132, and still managed to make the playoffs. Of course, the win against Andy was his biggest win of the season. I didn't give him a chance to win. I didn't even fucking mention Joe's playoff chances 2 weeks ago. But Joe did it. He made the playoffs with a little help from Team Bundy. You're welcome, Joe. We move on to Big Papa Pooh defeating Ewok Rape 70-54. 17 points from Dak Prescott. 11 from Alvin Kamara, just 4 from Zach Moss, but you gotta keep playing him. And Justin Jefferson, of course, comes into the game and leaves the game with what I believe was a chest injury. Amon St. Brown with 2 points. Kyle Pitts scoring a touchdown. Finally, Kyle Pitts does something, scoring 11 points, a touchdown, 3 catches with 57 yards. Way to go, Kyle Pitts. And 9 points from the 49ers defense. Eric couldn't get anything going. A anemic performance. 14 points from Christian McCaffrey. And that's about it. Jalen Hurts looks tired. The Philadelphia Eagles look tired. And here's what I'll tell you about Eric. Moving forward, with the loss to with the loss that the Packers had last night, that clinches a playoff position for the 49ers. Did that clinch the bye for them? I think it was the bye. Even worse if it's the bye. And soon, the Philadelphia Eagles will clinch themselves. So Eric's 2 key players are on very good, cushy situations. Could you assume that in 2 weeks, Eric only gets 3/4 from these players? Of course, this is always the danger of picking good players from really good teams. And the same could be said for Jay. How much does Dak Prescott play if whatever the clinching situations are next week, going into week 2? What happens with these players? You see, I don't have to worry about this. Josh Allen and the Bills, they fucking suck. Austin Eckler and the Chargers, they fucking suck. I don't have to deal with that. So, it's something to think about here. Ewok Rape, of course, with his lowest point total, just being saved by Pedro, just by 4 points. So, and also I want to mention 17 points from Cooper Kupp. Is Cooper Kupp just going to fuck with Eric? I certainly hope he does. 17 points on the bench. What was his stat sheet? Let's see. Cooper Kupp, 8 catches, 115. Look, that was just a Cooper Kupp-esque type of game. 8 catches, 115 yards with a touchdown. Is he going to troll Eric? I certainly hope he does. The last game that we have here is Skylander defeating Plathanos 95-74. Just 12 points from Patrick Mahomes. Hold on a second, let me get some water. 8 points from Chuba Herbert. 11 from Kyron Williams. Look, Andy was saved by Deebo Samuel. And this happens often for Andy. Deebo Samuel does this a lot. I think, what was it? Last week when he got 31, Andy didn't have the best games from other players. And Deebo just gets him, he gets him the victory. Look, that's why you have these kinds of players. They can, give you the weeks that make up for the rest of your team not doing anything, but it makes you think. Things that make you go, you remember that reference? Tyreek Hill getting an injury and then coming back into the game. That was very confusing. Either fucking get out of the game or stay into the game. I think towards the end when Miami lost, I don't think he was on the field. Very confusing. Makes me wonder about Tyreek Hill's status for the rest of the season. Let's see what happens there. On the other side, Hensel, not much. Russell Wilson, he picked him up for the bye. 14 points and 21 points from Evan Ingram. Hensel is not having a good end of the season here. Losing what? Let's see. Hensel lost his last 2 games here with a record of 6-7-1, and he loses to Gylander, who moves on to a record of 11-2-1. Those are the games, folks. Those are the games. Eric wins the MVP. He just edges Joe with 1389. Joe with 1367. And fucking damn, the bottom 3 here, which includes Hensel, the bottom 3 scorers in the league, it was very distant from the rest of us. 1,119 for Pedro, 1,109 for Hensel, and 1,106 for Ed. The distance between Ed and me it's a Grand Canyon, let alone for Eric. Just a bad season scoring wise, but Hensel makes it. He makes it into the playoffs, and here we are. Here we are, folks. In the very next installment, I'll get into the round 1 games between Plathanos and the Toronto Bundy and Joelicus Maximus versus Big Papa Poop. But I just wanted to recap these games very quickly. Kamish, I ain't done with you. You understand? You understand, Kamish? At the time when you made that sketch, you were 3-3. That's the funniest thing to me. The funniest thing is, you didn't make it out of hate. You made it out of the expectation that you were just going to make another season, another winning season, and it was just all going to go great for you, and you could kick Team Bundy for what? For a laugh? Was it worth it? Was it really worth it, Kamish? I got you. So that is the end of the 2023 season. I, of course, will be coming at you with some extra content here and there. Let's see what I can do. But as always, may your quarterbacks get hurt before they leave the locker room. May your running backs pull their hamstrings. And may your wide receivers get arrested for marijuana possession. Farewell to Paul. Farewell to the Kamish. Farewell to Pedro. And good riddance to Ed. Go fuck yourselves.